Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Chats and Chapters podcast. I am Caitlyn Howarth, podcaster, book editor, and lover of words. Today we have a bit of a different episode. Chats and Chapters is 1 year old today, as of November 14th, when this episode is going to drop. So I just think it is mind-boggling to me and so exciting, but also so surreal. I posted a TikTok of the "you look happier" trend, and I had so many people comment to be like, how did you do it? What are tips? And I have editor friends, and anytime they post something about being an editor and loving it, and we always tend to get questions about how we did it. And so I thought it would be a really fun way to, one, celebrate a year of Chats and Chapters, and two, give you, if you want that insight of whether you're interested in being an editor or you're one of those and you just want to hear more about my story and like how I got here, all of that kind of stuff. This episode is for you. So a year ago, I quit my corporate job and went all in on professional book editing. That is so crazy. Okay, so in the last year, I have worked with more than 20 authors. I've completed around 25 rounds of edits, and I have read 2,261,343 words. Excuse me? What? So I want this episode to be a how-to for aspiring editors and a little love letter to anyone who has felt out of place, like they're failing, or like they want more out of life, but they aren't really sure what that looks like exactly. Because if you had told me a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, this is what my more looked like, I would have been like, what? But I love it. So in order to write you the best love letter I can, we have to go back about 20 years. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a play-by-play of my entire life, but these things do play into how I got to where I am today. So let's go back to teenager Caitlyn. I'm 33. We'll do 13-year-old Caitlyn. I wanted to be in law enforcement, okay? I was obsessed with Law & Order SVU. Law enforcement was my path. I minded my P's and Q's. I did well in high school. I did well in college. I took psychology courses, accounting courses, criminal justice courses. I ended up with a bachelor's in criminology and 2 minors in criminal justice and psychology. I only took about 2 accounting classes, but by God, they were helpful. I still use them, so love that for me. I ended up going to 4 colleges. Yes, I did. SNHU, Southern New Hampshire University, was my favorite. Overlapping with my school, I did apply for my local police department. I didn't get in. There's a whole lot of drama around that, but for the sake of time, we're going to leave it at that because that's like a 3-year saga of bullshit, okay? But the main takeaway here is that I thought my life was over at this point. I remember getting the call from the detective and I started crying. I called my boss at the time and I was like, I am not going to be able to come into work today. And I went to my husband's house. He was my boyfriend at the time, and just sat on the floor in his room because he was asleep and just bawled my eyes out. I had told everyone that I was going into law enforcement and I didn't make it. I didn't know what else to do. Looking back, don't even get me started. Looking back, it was ridiculous, but I didn't know what I didn't know, okay? I moved on. I did odd jobs. At the time, the call to my boss was I worked at Michael's. So I worked at Michael's, the arts and crafts store. I worked at Academy. I did customer service for Starbucks, and that was a nightmare. Like, no ma'am, I am not made for that kind of life. I'm not made for that kind of life. I had people literally calling me and complaining and wanting refunds because they went to a different store than their typical store and they had to pay 20 cents more for their oatmeal, or their foam wasn't 180 degrees and they knew it even though they had asked for it. Their foam was more like 140 degrees. Like, the way that I did not have patience for these people. I had one guy call me and he was like, I walked into a Starbucks and no one told me good morning. And I was like, do you have an actual complaint or no? Yeah, I'm not made for the customer service life. That was wild. So I had so many jobs. It's crazy. I hated every single one of them after a while. I have this bad tendency of I learned the job and I got bored. And I thought management could manage better. And so I left. So after I worked for customer service for Starbucks, I got a job with TSA. And I thought TSA was the career for me. I really did. I saw myself promoting and working there long term for the first 6 months to a year. Okay. At the same time as TSA, I was an online health coach. So I went through my personal training certification, nutrition certification, all of those. I have been a runner since I was 13. If you've listened to the podcast, watch any of the YouTube videos or like my TikTok videos, I ran since I was 13. So I had a coaching business where I would coach women with their nutrition and their fitness goals. And so I did that alongside TSA because my airport in my town that I live in is really small. So I only worked part-time at TSA. So I worked for TSA from like fall of 2019 to fall of 2021. And then I quit to coach full time. And it was leaving TSA was like the same thing. Like I knew the job. They stopped letting us, we didn't travel. We traveled a lot through training. Like I went to Fletsy in Georgia and like I had to go to Austin to do my OJT, which was really fun because I love Austin. And so that all ended. It was very boring and I did not like it. And the politics and bullshit within TSA was once again not for me, okay? Not for me. And so I tried coaching for a full year, and that was one of the biggest learning periods in my life. Coaching obviously didn't pan out. I loved it. I loved talking to my clients. I loved the coaching aspect. I hated the social media aspect, the everything like I do this so I can help you do this, or look what I'm eating. Like I would go on vacations and I was just constantly thinking about how can I use what I'm doing now as within marketing for the coaching business, like this, that, and the other. I don't know. I did not like it. It wasn't for me. And at the time, I tried so darn hard, guys. I tried so hard. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be. And that's okay. And the day I decided to shut down the business, I felt so much better about life. So yeah, coaching didn't pan out. I didn't love the marketing aspect and the focus on myself. So I shut down Caitlyn Howarth Fitness in September of 2022. And I was like, okay, corporate is the life for me. Corporate's the life for me. Owning my own business was incredibly stressful. I hated it. Like I said, I loved working with my clients, but I hated everything that went into getting the clients. And so I was like, being a business owner, not for me. Never doing that again. That was awful, terrible, ew. Obviously, I lied. I lied hard. So in October of 2022, I started a job at a court reporting management company based out of Massachusetts. And here I was really convinced this was it. Okay. This is it. I worked from home. I liked my coworkers. I went to Massachusetts to meet everyone. So like that was a plus. It was a plus when I got to travel for TSA in the beginning. That was grand old times. My supervisor at this job became my best friend. I enjoyed it a lot in the beginning, but my main client was the meanest woman I have ever met in my life. And I say met in air quotes because I've only met her via Zoom. Thank God. And unfortunately, I had to talk to her every single day, all day, to update her on stuff for work, obviously. And some people can just power through and go for that. And I'm not one of those people. I'm just not. I'm proudly not one of those. It's most unfortunate I'm not one of those. It would be a lot easier if I could, but I cannot. So this leads us to the turning point, which was London of 2024. I was invited to go to London last May 2024, with my supervisor / my best friend and her mom, who was also the owner of the company that I worked for. So that trip, it was like a solid week. I flew to Boston, I think like Saturday, I think. And then we flew out of Boston on Sunday. We went to London, and then I think we came back like Saturday or Sunday the next week. Like it was a full thing. It was amazing. It was so busy. Her mom had us like on a stacked itinerary. Holy shit. I would love to go back. to London. If you get the chance, I definitely recommend. Anyways, so while in London, we obviously talked a lot. We were 3 girls chilling, hanging out, sightseeing, doing things, having dinners, drinks, great times. And obviously, we had some conversations about work. So I made a few comments about the client that I loathed, and they were essentially waved off. That's just how she is. Clients like that keep us on our toes. And I don't know, that stuck with me. I can't tell you why it was in that moment that the light bulb went off in my head, but it did. And it was blinding. Yeah, I can't explain it. I just remember, other than it was just meant to be, it was just how my life was supposed to go. But I just remember thinking, this is how things are. It's how they've always been. It's how the company has always been. Like, I didn't come on when the company was brand new. So obviously the company functioned before I came along. And if I stay here, this will be my life. No one else within the company wanted to work with a client. They all knew of her. I didn't have an option to go to a different department to really like branch out and spread my wings and do anything. And this was a moment I realized it was time for another change, because it had been about 2 years, and that's my limit. Back from London, I've always been a big reader. I have always been a crazy grammar lady. I remember like 3rd grade or something, I tried to help this chick on a spelling test. She spelled Wednesday wrong. And then I got in trouble because she turned me in. And I'm like, bro, I'm trying to help you. Anyways, just saying. I am incredibly gifted at finding inconsistencies and things that are out of place. And I thought, oh my God, I know what I meant to do. So I began researching, because every great thing starts with research, okay? My college days they're strong. So I signed up for the Pointer ACES certification in editing in June of 2024. Yes, I moved very quickly, okay? I moved very quickly. And to be honest, I'm not sure I would recommend it if you're looking for editing courses, because it is geared more towards journalism and not book specifically. Like, it's a very good, very basic place to start. But I did have to add on a lot of courses from the EFA and read a lot of like specific novel editing books to fill in the gaps, which is not a problem. It's not bad. There's probably more out there to get. Like, the Pointer Aces one wasn't expensive, but just an idea. Like, maybe look into that, kind of see. It's not expensive. It's a good place to start. But to edit fiction specifically, you are going to have to learn from other resources, because journalism is not the same as fiction. I completed the course in August. From there, I did free edits for authors to exercise that editing muscle, get their feedback, figure out my own process. I emailed a ton of places to see if they had any editor opening. Magazines, smaller publishing companies. Honestly, I just Googled and sent email after email. I have a notebook. Or is it a Google Doc? It might be I don't know. I have a long list somewhere of all of the places that I had reached out to. And that is because I was really hoping to stay at my job, find something else, and then boop-a-doop transition. So I wasn't planning on quitting so soon, but they decided I was getting another client, and that was pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back. So I put my 2 weeks in, because I'm ballsy, and I was like, bye. And I took a very lovely vacation to New York and Salem with some of my best friends, my last PTO. And my last day at that job was November 13th, 2024. And it felt so good to leave on a Wednesday. Like, I was so done. I was like, yeah, let's go. Middle of the week. And it was magical. And I filed the Chats and Chapters LLC on November 14th, which is a year, obviously, ago from today. And I was ready to roll. I had done free edits for authors. I met a few other editors, and I did some contract work for them and got their feedback. And I really just did anything and everything that I could get my hands on. Like I said in the beginning, it's wild. In the last year, I've worked with more than 20 authors, completed around 25 rounds of edits. So do I have stressful days? Absolutely. Does being my own IT department make me want to throw my laptop. Yes, it does. Unfortunately, I can't stand it. But I would not trade my life for anything. I have met some of the sweetest and most inspirational people in the last year, and I don't take any of it for granted. I have met amazing authors, other editors that I have learned from. The last year has just been, it's been amazing. I've read some of the most amazing books. I've had the best time working on manuscripts and helping authors and giving them the feedback and seeing the light bulb go off in their head and being like, your questions help me so much, and this, that, and the other. Nothing makes me happier. Nothing makes me happier than what I'm doing right now. So I do want to end on some lessons that I have learned through my 33 years on this planet. I hope they help you see things differently. I hope they at least give you some hope if you're in a really rough season right now, because I have been there. I have felt lost. It's really difficult to try all these jobs. And like, my brother has been in his job forever, and my sister-in-law loves her job and she's moved around, but she's within the same industry. And my husband loves his job. And I have friends who've been in this, and I'm like, I just can't, I could not stick with anything. And it's because it wasn't the right fit. So when you find what you're supposed to be doing and like how you're supposed to live your life and everything like that, it all fits and it is just a grand old time. Okay, so lesson number 1 is everything can teach you something if you are willing to learn. At all of the jobs that I hated, I learned how I wanted to run my own business. I learned how I wanted to treat clients and how I wanted clients to treat me. And I learned how I would interact with employees if I was ever lucky enough to have them. I learned from every situation that I was in, whether it was pleasant or unpleasant. It guided me in the direction of what my life is now. And I think if you might not like, I didn't know when I didn't get accepted in the police department that like I would find something else. And I can't imagine doing that now. But looking back, I'm like, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. So everything can teach you something if you are willing to learn. Lesson number 2 is your life isn't over until you're dead. Okay. A little harsh, but it's true. So I thought not getting my childhood career dream was the end for me. Like I said, I was so dramatic. I'm well aware. I had planned for it for a decade though. Like, it was a really hard blow. It was a hard blow to my ego. It was a hard blow to my Virgo and type A heart. Like I was clueless about my life, what I was going to do next, how it was so embarrassing telling people that I did not get accepted into the police department and it wasn't going to happen. But my life kept going, because I wasn't dead, and I kept figuring it out, and eventually it all led me here. So I love that for me. I love that for me. The third lesson is if your plans don't happen, something better is out there for you. So this kind of ties both of those together, I'm aware, but it's a different way of saying it, because you can plan for every single thing. And I say this to myself at the same time as I say it to you, because I'm still not perfect at this. I plan everything. I want things to happen when I want them to happen. And if they don't, I am not a happy camper. Like, it's not one of my best qualities, but it is a quality. And if your plans don't happen, something better is out there. And I obviously say this fully looking through a hindsight is 2020 lens, because like I said, in that moment, for the last, not this last year, but the 7, 8, 9 years before that, I was definitely like, what am I doing? I'm just floating around. I'm not really sure. I hated every job that I worked at. I liked all of them. I didn't like the customer service one, but I was only doing that for 5 months and then I got promoted. Hallelujah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed as long as I did. Anyways, you might be thinking like, obviously, Caitlyn, but if you are thinking that, this is a good reminder. Hopefully you found these helpful. Yeah, like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. I really thought law enforcement was the route that I was going to go. And obviously that was not the plan. And yeah, I'm so much happier now. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I hope that you love this episode. If you are, an aspiring editor and you want to talk a little bit more to me about the process or like courses or possibilities or anything like that, send me an email. You can find my email address on my website. I would love to chat with you and help you out if I can. And if you are an aspiring author, you're writing, you might need a book editor soon, I am booking into 2026 at this point. So if you are looking for an editor, I would absolutely love to help you with your manuscript. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Chats and Chapters podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you found at least some of it helpful, or, peeking in, like learning a little bit more about me was at least a little bit entertaining. I'm always here for that. And we will see you next week.